Today on Locked On Rockies, there's no really painless way to look at it. There are some ugly stats from the 2024 season, and those stats kind of make the future of the Rockies really unclear.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock On Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the second day of October in the year 2024. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day. Free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind, just like Lance Lauer did, and we're going to talk about that as one of our segments today. Be part of the show. Join me and all our other Rockies fans. Let me know what's on your mind here as we enter a very interesting offseason for the Colorado Rockies. And we're going to look at it. We're going to look at the roster, how it finished. We're going to look at the numbers. We're going to look at the bad history, and we're going to read from a really good piece from Thomas Harding as well. But we're also just going to look from the Rockies, how they looked comparing to the rest of the division and how they stacked up the rest of the league when it comes to stats and how they finished up. Before we dive into everything today, this episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah, the right episode, or the right stake can make you a fan of any city, even your baseball rivals. Book today on Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Get the Booking.com app today. All right, I'm just going to go with let's just hit you with some hard truths to start the episode. Here is from Patrick Saunders on Twitter here. Doing some postseason number crunching. Rockies' 242 batting average was the worst in team history, and the 1,617 Ks were the most. Followed that up with, and wow, .704 OPS was also the worst in franchise history. All right, next up that we are going to look at here. This comes from Thomas Harding's piece that we are going to read from. The Rockies' sixth straight losing season and second straight season of triple-digit losses is done. I'll follow up on the end of that sentence there, but I just wanted to hit you with the numbers. He also adds this later in the piece. Colorado set an MLB record by blowing 6 leads of 5 or more runs in the 9th inning or later. To name a couple, there was a 7-run meltdown marked by a disputed check swing and a home loss to the Dodgers, and a 4-run lead blown in the 11th inning of a loss at Oakland. The Colorado Rockies here had led the NL in strikeouts. We're only 8 strikeouts behind the Seattle Mariners for finishing up in the for most strikeouts in all of baseball. Not only was the Colorado Rockies batting average, it was bottom half of baseball, ended up being at 19th there to end the season, or 18th, I'm sorry, team batting average. Team on base percentage for the Rockies put them at 23rd in baseball overall. They could have been close. A lot of teams are relatively close there. Their slugging percentage here, when you compare it to the rest of baseball, was 14th. So, almost sitting right in the middle of the pack there. And team OPS for the Rockies put them at 15th. So in some ways you sit there and you're like, okay, maybe it wasn't so bad. That's why Thomas Harding follows up his opening sentence with internal optimism, internal expectations of a much better season next year. But really, though, why are we to believe that it's going to be much better? I mean, it's if there is significant development from the young guys and the trajectories of 2 stud players and the return of Nolan Jones, I do see a path. I do see it. Yes, I can see why there's the optimism. But what about these numbers instills a great deal of confidence in you? Okay, you can sit there and be like, all right, middle of the pack when it comes to the when it comes to offense in some areas. Okay, cool. That's good. That's nice. That's all fun and dandy. But what about when it comes to pitching and mixing that in? The Rockies were a team that was incredibly bad as a pitching staff. This is a team that had the highest ERA, the only team to finish with an above 5 ERA, team ERA, and nearly a 5.5 ERA at that. This is a team that gave up the most home runs in baseball. 221 home runs. Next was 208 by the Blue Jays. This was a team that struck out the fewest number of people in the league by over 100. This was a team that has a league worst whip of 1.52 and a team worst batting average against of 285. And cores that all you want. The Rockies were horrendous on the road. Awful on the road. And again, when I hear this stuff, you are sitting in the moment of opportunity. So when I see all these numbers, when you see these poor results, I'm glad that there is some optimism because yes, there are some areas to be optimistic. Yes, it is not fully doom and gloom. But I'm not buying into anything until I see more development. I'm not buying into anything until I see this pitching staff addressed. You cannot just have faith that you can trot out the same staff next year of pitchers and say, they're just going to be better. They're not. Cal Quantrill fell apart at the end of the season. Austin Gomber is the definition of hot and cold. Kyle Freeland had a solid stretch, but health, blister. Let's not talk about big picture health. Let's talk about blisters. Let's talk about slow starts to the season. Let's talk about the fact that when you take the Rockies' best performances by WAR, Brenton Doyle leads all of the Rockies at 4. And let me preface this by saying I am pumped by that. I am completely enthused by that. Just like I'm pumped by Ezekiel Tovar's 3.7. But you know what I'm disappointed in? I'm disappointed in Ryan McMahon topping out at 2.5. I'm disappointed that there's no other Rockies veteran that Brendan Rodgers is all the way down at a 1. That Elias Diaz was the 8th best player on the Rockies and didn't finish the season with them. That Luis Peralta was one of the best Rockies players by WAR. And that's at 0.8. Baseball Reference. And Victor Vodnik at 0.8, which again, I don't want to take away from that. And the fact that these guys, them being above WAR, not negative, above 0 and close to 1 WAR or, above is great news. But when the crop of players that you're counting on to help you be great, to help you win ball games, to help you compete with not only the rest of baseball, but just your division, they don't stack up. Let's take the Diamondbacks. Ketel Marte at 6.8. Perdomo at 3.4. Corbin Carroll, 3.4. Eugenio Suarez, 3.1. Jock Peterson, 2.9. Zach Gallen, 2.7. To finish up there was the 12th ranked WAR player for the Diamondbacks was Justin Martinez at a 2 WAR this year. And why do I focus on wins above replacement? Because it's an advanced analytic to show you a complete baseball, to show a player. It's not just the same thing. And I know it's, again, throw whatever cores factor you want to throw on this. That is fine. But the worst out of the top 12 players of the Arizona Diamondbacks, none of them dipped below 1. You get to a 1 WAR player when you get to the 6th highest ranked player, 1.7 at Jacob Stallings. Cal Quantrill at 1.7. And again, Elias Diaz at 1.2. It's middling. It's fine. They are good ball players. They are better than average. Great. But all of the Rockies' best players still fell short compared to the 12th best player on Arizona. Outside of, I'm sorry, that's not all of them. The outside of the top 5 Rockies players. The bottom half of this list of the top 12 players doesn't match up with the 12th ranked player on Arizona. The Dodgers, Shohei's at 9.2 WAR. Mookie Betts, 4.8. Freddie Freeman, 4.7. Teoscar Hernandez, 4.3. Will Smith, 3.5. Miguel Rojas, 3.4. The list goes on and on. The 12th ranked is, which is fascinating to see this actually, is 1.6 Vesia for them. That just kind of shows you how much I think some Glass now is 1.9. So the Rockies can kind of match up in this. But when you're the Dodgers and you compare them to the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the top elite players, and your best players don't match up to that, don't come close to matching up to that performance-wise, you're outmatched when your starting 9 goes up. When your top 12 goes up against their top 12, you're outmatched from the get-go. And it's been that obviously plays out in the field. Same goes for the Padres. Jackson Merrill, 4.4. Dylan Cease, 4.2. Michael King, 4.1. Also goes to show you how good Shohei has been. 1.4 is the minimum for the Padres. I'm just saying this. The Giants, it's a little bit more comparable, but 1.1 for Taylor Rogers at the bottom and Matt Chapman at 7.1. I'm just bringing these numbers up to paint the picture of all of these guys need to take steps forward, which is difficult enough. And then if they're taking steps forward, that's going to get them on track to where teams were at this year. Is that going to be good enough to keep pace with them going forward? Is that going to be good enough? Are we going to see enough big jumps? Can we hope to see the Rockies make the adjustments they need? And that's why when you go back to when the question is brought up about who should be the leader of this team, do you have confidence within the organization? You might like the talent, but do you like the approach? Do you believe? Do you see those numbers? Do you see back-to-back 100-loss seasons if you're the Rockies and say, I believe that the people that we have in place are the ones that are going to be able to continue to navigate this rough spot and get us back into contention? That's the big question here. And that's just the question from the numbers side. When I bring up the issue of rewarding bad performance, this is bad performance. We can find silver linings. We can like the Doyles. We can like the fact that the Rockies got some players WAR that are comparable WAR to the back end of the best of the NL West. But that's not enough. If you're the Rockies and you're sitting there saying, we believe enough in this team that we're just going to run it back, it's going to be the same results. This team is facing situations in which they can't just sit on their heels and do nothing. These numbers demonstrate it. But are they enough to really cause change within the organization? These are seasons that bring change. And that's just from the numbers perspective. Not the vibes, not possible dips in attendance, not relevancy. Man, talk about the Rockies just struggling. Even though interest in the Rockies can ignite so fast. A good baseball team in Denver gets people on the Rockies train and back into Coors Field rock and purple so fast. They're not there because they don't want to go through the song and dance. They're not interested in watching 162 games of mediocre to bad baseball. That's why Coors Field gets packed from other people that come to Coors Field, because it's a great place to come visit and see your team play. The Rockies have to do a lot. If you want to compete, they have to see a lot of development and a lot of growth and get more from their players. We'll see if they can. All right, let's dive into a user comment here, a listener comment, I should say. User, interesting choice of words there for me. But and we'll also dive into this piece from Thomas Harding again from that he wrote because we pulled some stuff from it. It was who stood out and what we learned from the Rockies 2024 season. Quick break. We'll be right back. Got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. FanDuel's got you covered now as sports are just heating up, folks. We got football going on, of course, all the Sunday action there. Well, the Thursday action, the Sunday action, the Monday action, and soon the Saturday, the Tuesday. Who knows with that? But they got you covered with all sorts of props, futures, money line bets. You can see it all for yourself. And if you're interested in trying things out, well, now is a good time because NFL fans, you can start the season with the big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. That's on the FanDuel app, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Yes, that's $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com or on the FanDuel app. That's FanDuel.com. We're also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the place for you if you love fantasy sports. It's going to test your knowledge in the right ways. And it's not going to be a thing where you have to deal with those people who are so good at monitoring the waiver wire or know all your sleeper picks. No. It's just you against the numbers. What do you do at PrizePicks? Well, you just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. And they put members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can get your money back in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. That's the PrizePicks app, and download and use the code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup when you download the PrizePicks app and use code LOCKEDONMLB. PrizePicks, run your game. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. For your second listen, go check out Sully. He's given those postseason that postseason a look through, and also doing regular season awards. Maybe go see if the Rockies pull off an upset somehow in a crazy alternate universe. Maybe it's some kind of wacky award he gives them there. But anyway, for you all to consider, you should go read Thomas Harding's piece from the 29th of September. Who stood out? What we learned from Rockies 2024 season. I just want to put a bow on our conversation there in segment number 1 about navigating the future and this offseason here. All right, let's see. Where do I want to start here? There are significant warts to correct, but through experience gained this year, and especially on the pitching staff health, the talent level is improving incrementally. The Rockies have tried to tamp down any possible drama, but they have not made any announcement about the status of manager Bud Black after 8 years at the helm. Black managed Colorado to the postseason each of his first 2 years, and he has led the team through a decline and the rebuild. I want to go up here to the just kind of fast forward a little bit to the what we learned section here. And I want to focus on the pitching part. The Rockies are placing their hopes for 2025 on the starting rotation. That sounds odd considering their starters' ERA was a major's worst 5.54, but just 110 games were started by Kyle Freeland, Cal Quantrill, Austin Gomber, and Ryan Feltner, and the team knew going in that depth would be a problem. Fingers are crossed that German Marquez and Antonio Senzatella will be healthy, and a group of prospects should add talent and depth. We learned that a less than dependable bullpen is not conducive to winning, although the problem was addressed later on. I mean, that's it, right? That's the mentality. And again, it's kind of the obvious thing, right? The Rockies weren't going to make any drastic moves with the pitching staff. They would have done so. But you're going to enter a phase and hope then I guess actually, before I even just go in a different thing, it's just like, if you're going to run that pitching staff back, and that's the plan, and has been the plan, how are you going to improve? What is going to be the difference? Is it just that, hey, we know Senza and Herman have had success in the past in some capacities, and we just hope that them being healthy is going to be good enough? I just don't think that's good enough. I don't think that just sticking to the status quo and then bringing in the same coaches, the same people back in, does that really make you think that things are going to change when the pitching has been on the decline since the playoffs? Are we really confident that the Rockies have the tools to make this pitching staff bounce back from a league worse? Remember, we went through the stats in the first thing. It ain't just ERA that they're the bottom. And these are talented guys. These are guys that certainly add depth to major league rosters. But when your roster is comprised of mostly middling starters, 5s on most teams, with that most being a 3 on other teams, that's tough. It's putting a lot of faith and a lot of confidence in an area that has been weak for the Rockies, and an area that has shown decline. To put a lot of faith and a lot of hope in just the health. It could pan out. It certainly can. And it is interesting to read that there are 52 games not started by the main rotation. But haven't we seen a pretty good amount of this rotation now? And what do you do at certain points? Are you going to go 6-man? Let's go. Kyle, Herman, Senza, Gomber, Feltner, Quantrill. Are you going 6-man rotation? Are you dropping Gomber into the bullpen to be a veteran guy in the bullpen? Is that what you're thinking of when he ended up actually being one of your top 12 players of the season? That's it. To get that insight, it's a good look there, because if that's what they're saying, then you can kind of expect similar stuff. Now, the young bullpen and that stuff, that certainly can be a different issue, absolutely, and will change parts of the pitching narrative. But at the same time, you're just running back something that we know. In the areas for improvement here, Harding writes, the offense has to improve. After leading the National League in strikeouts in 2023 with 1,541, the Rockies led the NL again at 1,617. There was an uptick in home runs from 163 homers to 179, which is a good sign, honestly. To make the trade-off worthwhile, power providers Ryan McMahon, Ezekiel Tovar, and Michael Toglia will have to reduce the strikeout weight the Ray Benton Doyle did 10 points to 25% has. That's absolutely true. This season is so much of the 2025 it has a big deal. The way it's going to go, whether it be 60 wins and another 100 losses, or a team that shocks some people and wins in the 70s or what have you, Ryan McMahon is going to play a huge factor in that. The strikeouts are going to play a huge factor in that. Again, they got worse at striking out after they were the worst team in baseball at striking out. They were 8 strikeouts away, which one more game for the Rockies, from being a team that led the league, that had back-to-back years leading the league in strikeouts. It's insanity. Again, that's not the right type of history. Remember when the Rockies became the first team since 1900? They have the longest streak in baseball history of consecutive games trailed. There has to be a lot of improvement from this team. There has to be a lot of steps forward from this team. we'll see what happens. All right, I want to dive into a listener comment here to close out the show. But again, lots more in that Thomas Harding piece. I didn't want to read from all of it. So if you want to catch more of it, who stood out, what we learned from Rockies 2024 season, it's on MLB.com. You can see it there. All right, quick break, and then we'll wrap this episode up with a listener comment. Stay tuned. This episode of Locked On Rockies is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Explore those U.S. cities you've always secretly wanted to learn about and enjoy baseball across the country. Maybe you're saying, you know what, I can't watch the Rockies, but I want to do a little travel for this postseason to watch some postseason baseball and go check out the vibes in these other cities and see what's going on. Maybe check out all the cuisine that's around there at all the stadiums there. Well, Booking.com's got you covered because they got a wide variety of choices across the U.S., and you can go incognito to all your baseball rival city. Booking.com delivers exactly the right U.S. stay for you. It takes care of everything you need when you are looking for a trip. And the right state can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. So go over, check out Booking.com. That's Booking.com, Booking.yeah. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. We talk Rockies baseball around here. All sorts of great Colorado sports coverage here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, Buffs, Rockies. Talking about it all here on Locked On Rockies. And don't forget, Locked On Postcasts heading your way on the Locked On Denver Sports channel as well, breaking down those sports and those teams as well. Wanted to highlight a comment here from Lance Lowry. I don't see the Rockies being consistently competitive over the next 3 years, largely due to the challenges possessed by the altitude at Coors Field. The thin air not only takes a physical toll on players, especially pitchers, but also creates unique pitching challenges that make it difficult to attract and retain top-tier talent. The stigma around playing in Colorado further complicates the ability to sign high-level free agents, particularly pitchers. Historically, the team's two most significant free agent signings, Mike Hampton and Chris Bryant, both turned into albatross contracts. Hampton struggled with the altitude's effect on his performance, and Bryant's contract, which runs until the 2029 season, is already a major concern given his injury history and limited production since joining the Rockies. Compounding this issue is the Rockies' relatively weak farm system, which hasn't consistently produced impact players, leaving them reliant on free agency to fill critical gaps. Competing in the highly competitive NL West with teams like the Dodgers, Giants, and Padres makes a path to the division title almost unattainable. Even contending for a wild card spot will be a major challenge without significant improvement in player development and better management of their limited resources. Get them, Lance! It is going to be tough. It will be. And you nail great points. They need to either invest more resources, buy more in, and get creative when it comes to contracts. Again, this is why when we talk about new ideas, it's why I think the Rockies need to be a team where you allow experimentation and weird things. I would rather watch wacky, weird stuff that the Rockies try to do than them trotting out same teams or similar teams time after time again. I'd rather them try to go in and, hey, let's do a rotation of guys on one-year deals, make deals at the deadline if it's not working out, and flip them and do stuff like that. Or, hey, we have used our analytics department and our AI tools, in the world of AI and all stuff. We have compounded 30 years of Coors Field data into crafting and creating this, and we believe this approach can help. And then you mix that with the baseball eye and baseball sense of baseball people, that you can't just be analytics, but you can't just be old baseball minded. The good teams blend them both and invest in them both. The Rockies can be a team that can be a team that can be innovative, a team that can be a weird environment that you take risks that you wouldn't take risks in other environments and do certain things. Because you simply, it seems like sometimes the Rockies just are throwing their hands up and just saying, well, we're hoping for it to play better. You need to develop better. You need to research better. You need to invest better. And I think Lance hits a lot of those points in that comment there. So thank you, Lance, for tuning in. And if you got Rockies hot takes on your mind, let me know when it comes to your minds in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section, especially as we go through the offseason, folks. I want to know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. So keep asking me things. Keep letting me know what's on your mind. And folks, until next time, this has been the Locked On Rockies podcast for free and streaming on your favorite streaming services, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. Go check us out on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. And for your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB with our guy Sully. And if you need more Colorado sports coverage, Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Nuggets, and Locked On Buffs are free and streaming on your favorite streaming services. Until next time, I'm Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.